Hi guys! Welcome back to my channel. As it has been heavily requested, today we will be doing the using only one color art supply challenge again, and this time in purple, which was the next most recommended color. As you can see, I have a lot more purple stuff to choose from than the pink, and especially the glitter. I love purple glitter. And I've picked out everything I have in purple in this sort of supplies I would end up using for a doll, be it both acrylic paint, my watercolor pencils. I have some acrylic yarn which I will brush out and use for hair, which I typically do, then glitter and rhinestones because I might use them to embellish, so that's why they're included in the challenge. Firstly, here's my watercolor pencils, which is a mix of the Faber-Castell Architecture and the Candach. The two lighter one appear kind of pink on the camera, but I excluded them from the previous pink challenge because I thought they were more of a purple tone. I also had two shades of acrylic paint, luckily the two being one more bluish and one in the slight more pinkish, and there was a bit of difference in the darkness, which was good. And then I had kind of the same hue of the two in chalk pastel, and I had two mica powders, which are these shimmery powders. And one of them looks black, but it's actually a very, very dark purple. And then lastly, I had all my glitters and also my rhinestones, pearls, and that sort of stuff. Generally my nail art supplies. And I include them in the challenge, but I don't try to use every single one of them. I try to use at least one thing within each sort of type, because otherwise I could just stick a single piece of each glitter somewhere, but you wouldn't be able to see it, and I just feel it would defeat the purpose of the challenge. So I incorporate a bit of each category. The only supply I allow myself that isn't purple is white, and this is just for the whites of the eyes and white highlights. I will not be mixing it into any of the purples. I will only be mixing the purples together. And here's a swatch test so you guys can see the specific colors. Unfortunately, the pencils I had in purple kind of looked a lot alike, so the two lighter ones looked alike and the two darker ones looked alike. There was just a very small tone difference. I used all four of them, but they looked a lot alike, so you could have just used the two, but either way. For the base of this project, I used this secondhand Laguna Monster High doll, and I chose her because her skin tone would look nicely with the purples, both making them stand out, but also just, going along with the color theme nicely, so that's why I went for her. I do your usual prep before repainting, and on a doll that is secondhand and very beat up like this one was, it's the most satisfying to get rid of the old messy hair and the dirty face. So, once the doll is cleaned and primed, we can get on with the repaint. I went into this with the slight idea that I wanted her to look a little more edgy sort of than the two previous ones I did for this challenge, because the first two were blue and pink, and my grand idea for those were just I wanted them cute. And I thought someone actually requested that I make this a little more edgy or emo or something, and I just thought it would be nice to have a different approach. And the first thing that came to mind was I really wanted to figure out how to use the glitter in a different way than I had in the previous two. In the previous one, I used it for almost eyeshadow. And for this one, I decided I wanted to do glitter lips. And this was something I saw, YouTubers in the beauty community do a long time ago. And it's not, a common thing to walk around with, or maybe a party thing, I don't know. I just thought it would look really, really nice, since among my purple glitters were very fine glitters, which would work the best with this sort of thing, because you don't want the lips to look all weird and chunky. So I just did a basic color of one of the pencils, because I'll be adding the glitter on top of that with glue once I'm done repainting. Because if you seal glitter in with Mr. Super Clear spray, which I used to prime and seal and all that, then it gets a little more frosted and it loses a lot of its glittery effect, and I wanted it to stay glittery, so I'll be adding that afterwards. Since there was going to be so much focus on the lips, them being glitter and all, I decided that I didn't want her to have eyeshadow on. I wanted her to just have a defined eyeliner because I thought that would be a nice look, and I also made her, you know, eyes slightly closed so you could see a bit more of the lid, like almost like she's pouting and striking a pose for Instagram or something. And I used the mica powder for the iris in order to get a bit of color difference, because I'm very conscious of how I use my darker shades, because that's usually what I do for, you know, the eyelashes and the pupil and stuff like that. But I kind of wanted to mix it up, so I actually decided that I wanted the of course the pupil, but also the eyeliner to be more of the darkest point, so I added lighter eyelashes instead, thinking maybe her eyelashes either would match her hair, or maybe she was wearing colored mascara, who knows. For general shading of the face, I used the darker bluish sort of shade I had in my chalk pastels, and that was just, you know, to define the cheekbones around the temples a bit, you know, by the nose bridge and stuff like that. And I did it very faintly, so I'm not sure how well it registered on camera, but I used a slightly more pink tone of pastel for a bit of blush on the cheeks. But I did that in a few layers just to, you know, do it very, very softly, because I didn't want to end up adding too much and her face just, you know, end up looking weird. I struggled a little getting different tones to stand out in the eyes, so I ended up also using the watercolor effect of one of the lighter pencils to make lines, just, you know, to add some differentiation. When you have so few tones to work with, I find it helpful to work, you know, within sort of opacity. So when I wanted something to be a little more transparent and a little softer, then I would only use the pencil on its own, you know, in its original form. But if I wanted to add more definition or deepen the color, then I use either the watercolor effect of the pencil or go straight in with some of the acrylic paint. And this way you can get it to fade a little better, and you kind of fake having more tones than what you actually have. I used a bit of the darker pastel to shade the actual eyes, which I always do because I do think it brings it alive. And I also used a bit of that very dark mica powder, which was just very, very dark purple and shimmery on the actual eyelids, just for a bit of shimmer. And I think you could tell a little bit in these clips around here, but once I had sealed it in, it didn't really show. But so it's there in thought, but it didn't really make that much of a difference. And for the eyelashes, which I spoke of earlier, I used the more pinkish, lighter acrylic paint, and I thinned it out a little bit so I could build it up slowly, because I always find eyelashes to be so hard to do because they have to be so thin and they have to almost like taper out, because otherwise they look chunky, and I really struggle. So I really took a lot of time doing very slowly and building them up so there was more color at almost the root of every hair, but they had to be opaque enough to really stand out against the dark eyeliner. As some of the final touches, I added white highlights to the eyes, and I ended up also making some very faint freckles just across her nose, because I did that on the previous two dolls and I just think it's so cute. So I snuck those in there, even though she's not meant to be really cute, so whoops. So once I was happy with it, I gave it the final seal, allowed it to dry, and then I just used some tacky glue to glue on the glitter I wanted on her lips. As much as I love glitter, I always feel like it's just such you know, a mess to clean up, because no matter how precise I try to be to clean it all up afterwards, I always find glitter all over my apartment for days after I've used it. I'm sure my boyfriend really loves me for that. And there she is, all sparkly and pretty. And next up is hair. I decided to use both of the shades of yarn that I had because I wanted to, as I said, make it a little more edgy. And I didn't want it to have an undercut, I wanted it to have like a side cut. I don't know if that's the right term, but that's what I was going for. So I wanted the darker, more reddish shade to be very, very short on the side cut. And I did this after I brushed out, you know, both types of hair, and I straightened it with my flat iron. I cut it very, very short into flocking powder, and I painted the doll's scalp with one of the shades of purple I had in acrylic paint, and then I glued the fluff powder onto it and brushed away the excess once it was dry to create this very short, almost bust hair look. And once the side cut was all done, I started gluing on the other shade of hair, which I kept quite a bit longer. And the first row I glued in the opposite direction, kind of covering the side cuts, because once it was all dry, I could flip it over and it would look like, you know, a nice part. And then I just went around and glued hair in rows all over the missing parts. Once dry, you can give it a trim. I just cut it a tad shorter overall and then made it going slightly shorter from the actual side cut to the longest part on the other side of the head. Then I glazed both the eyes and the lips, and I like glazing the eyes because I feel like it deepens the colors and just looks much nicer, and the lips in this case as well, just to make sure that we sealed in all the glitter and it would look a little more smooth and not chunky. And then I went on to the rhinestones and pearls, and I decided to use those for earrings, which I thought kind of fitted her to be a little edgy, so I gave her 2 pieces for earrings on each side. And then I also used piece of the slightly bigger glitter I had and glued 2 pieces on each side of her eyebrows because I wanted to look sort of like a piercing, but I thought that the rhinestones would just be too chunky, so that's why I went for the glitter. And here she is. For the previous 2, I also used the yarn not only for hair but also to knit them scarves, so I wanted to do one for this one as well, but I used both the types of yarn I had and I switched in between the 2, so it ended up being a striped scarf. And I won't give you any advice on knitting because I'm really bad at knitting, so yeah. And ta-da! Here she is all done! I'm actually really happy with how this one turned out as well. She looks so much different from the previous 2, and I really do enjoy the face sculpt of this doll. I actually think it's very pretty. I hope you guys enjoyed this challenge, and do leave me a like if you did, so I know. And if you want to see more, do request more colors in the comments below so I know what you guys would like to see. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hit that like button and subscribe if you want to see more from me. And I'll see you guys in a new video real soon. Bye!